Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Dan Pfeiffer. We have a special show for you today.
Do you know about Pod Save America?
I don't, but this man is gray. He's a gray.
He is very gray. Yeah. But you don't know about this podcast? They're like super liberal. They have on their cover that they had Obama on the podcast once.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, real shining beacons of American discourse. Anyway, here we go.
Here in Washington, D.C., where I'm about to sit down with the leadership of the Harris-Walz campaign for their first interview about what happened in the election.
What do you think they're going to say, actually? Like, before, what do you actually, are they, actually going to own up to what they did wrong? That they were, out of touch with the working class? That they should not have campaigned with Liz Cheney?
I mean, for me, it's it already feels like a reality TV show. Like, it's like, oh, well, they're ready to come out of the love room and talk about it's just like fucking reality TV. It's like, we know what happened. Why is it so that's what I'm thinking is why is this even happening?
Well, so
they're probably going to make a bunch of fucking idiotic excuses.
There has been a lot of backlash to this episode, and some guy, John Favreau, put out a tweet so I guess people don't want to figure out what went wrong with the Democratic Party. If people are going to be disingenuous, we really want to figure out what actually happened. So,
right,
here we go.
And learning the lessons that Democrats are going to need going forward.
We've realized we were Democrats, and
look, what happened was we're Democrats.
Yeah, so looking forward, we're gonna have to figure out something to do with not being Democrats.
Thank you for doing this. Very much appreciate you having.
She's got all these fucking notes, She's got all her fucking notes spread out. She's got her phone. She's got a book open. She's got a packet of papers open to a certain page. She looks like she's about to stand trial.
Well,
she's fucking facing execution. This is just weird. This is just fucking bizarre.
How did you feel going into Election Day? And at what point did you have a sense that things were beginning to break Trump's way?
The truth is that we really thought this was a very close race, but it really took us into the hours of, polls closing for us to know for sure that things were not tightening. They were tight, but they weren't tightening in the direction we needed them to be.
It was tight, but it was tightening, but it was loosely tightening
but
around our necks.
Pretty much when polls closed, we just knew it was fucked.
And is that just because Trump's turnout was so high?
Well, honestly, I think it's a little bit mixed. I mean, we saw certainly Trump turnout high in early vote. We really believe that to be mode shifting, and that's what I think it was. I think we also saw turnout was as expected in rural areas.
The dumb poor people, they're doing what they're doing. We got that figured out. We accounted for that 40% of the country that are starving in rural areas. And
we knew there would be people who aren't happy with the current Biden administration who were going to try and take it out on us. We had anticipated for that.
The garbage.
The lower class.
The human waste.
The beneath us, right?
But I'm just saying, if you're in this case, if you're running this major campaign and you're actually taking this corrupt electoral process seriously, if you're losing, you're losing, right? I mean, I don't know how all the ins and outs of some of these election steals and things like that actually happen. But if you're running the numbers and it's
but if you're operating on the assumption that they were always going to steal the election, your internal polling would at least have to show it actually is tight to get away with the stealing. Because if your internal polling is saying you're not ahead, you can't then justify stealing that election.
But that's the thing about the Harris campaign is that it was like a fraud upon a fraud upon a fraud. Biden was a fraud in 2020, and then they pushed him. They said, we're not going to have a primary.
Yeah.
And so it was okay, well, I guess fucking Joe Biden is going to be running. I guess. I mean, well, whatever. I mean, it's all bullshit anyway. And then it's okay, well, obviously he has dementia. Okay, so obviously it's going to become. So it was so compounded. That's why for me, even though it's not. I don't really find it to be a productive train of thought. I feel like part of my skepticism always goes to is this all fucking bullshit? Is this are they was this in? Because even if I'm watching this, it's okay, so they're doing some candid tell-all, but they didn't fucking know. They didn't know that if you run a fake president and then admit that he has, they didn't know that if you run a fake president, admit he has dementia, then put his fucking clearly identity politics,
Somehow
astroturfed,
stupider.
fake human being.
Somehow worse than the guy with dementia.
She was like if you tried to make the worst possible imitation of a president. It was like
an AI presidential candidate.
Yeah, it's like AI reproducing fucking SNL.
Yeah.
For president. And then they're like, yeah, our numbers showed that we were losing.
It was just
the
out of nowhere
attempt
out of nowhere. Like, it was always out of nowhere. We were losing.
What did your polls tell you where the race was heading into Election Day?
Well, Dan, you and I talked prior to the election, and just to rewind, I think when Kamala Harris became the nominee, she was behind.
These people all look fucking
well, they're
pathetic.
Because they are. They
Lips
lost.
are all cracked.
You have to understand, this is liberal city world. Like, it's embarrassing for them that they lost to Donald Trump.
Right, but why don't they just
take some self-care? Like, is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, just fucking self-care, man. Put some lip balm on. Just get some vitamin D.
Yeah, right. Like, just go outside, man. Like,
do some breathing exercise.
Get away from the computer.
Get away from it all, man.
Yeah.
In post-debate,
we kind of, climbed back. And even post-debate, we still had ourselves down. I think our data and the New York Times data and other public data suggested we did have some progress with undecideds at late October. So it was a dead heat race. But, at the end of the day, the political atmosphere was pretty brutal. The fact that we got the race to dead heat was positive.
Because all of these people's careers are at risk. Like, they can never work in Washington again, right?
Well,
I
don't know about that.
This is like a pitch. Like, listen, like, I know we lost. I
think there's a lot of room for losers in Washington.
It's like, look, I know we lost, but like, it actually wasn't a loss because no one liked her, and we brought the race to a dead heat.
Yeah, maybe that's what this is just like. This is just like a fucking. This is just like a resume. This is an interview. This is like a long form interview for these people for the next NGO that they're going to work at.
Like we lost, but we actually didn't lose. You gave us some shit, and we polished the turd as much as we could. We brought that up to dead heat. All right, you find me somebody who can do that. We did that. So give us a candidate that's actually good.
I mean, that is what this is, right? They're
like we polished that turd.
Well, we deployed like a lot of different social engineering, experimental social engineering ideas. We were pulling out the stops on this one. I mean,
we censored as much as we could. We played both sides of the Gaza genocide.
We were brainwashing 13-year-olds to trick their parents to adopt mimetic language forms that they didn't recognize. And it was great. Honestly, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We got it to dead heat.
We brought Richie Torres to Michigan to explain to Jews why, to Michigan, right? Why we're, totally in support of Israel. Like, why would we lose Michigan? Makes no sense.
Makes no sense.
Right? It just, like,
airtight.
We did everything you're supposed to do,
Folks, you're cowards. I fucking hate all of you. I hate my constituents, and I hate Palestinian people, and I'm going to be the next mayor of New York. And that's my message for the people of Michigan.
Yeah, right. It's like, why did we lose? Why did we lose Michigan?
We got this democratic machine in New York that's working so well.
It's like...
Campaigning with the Cheneys, doing the events with the Republicans, the sort of the pivot around, like the statement you guys did after the John Kelly fascism comments. I know at the end of every campaign, everyone, in a losing campaign at least, everyone then looks at it, from the outside looks at it and says, the reason our side lost confirms whatever priors I had beforehand. But one of the arguments, particularly some folks on the left are making, is that doing this stuff with Cheney and Republicans suppressed turnout among the base. Just talk a little about why you decided to do the stuff with Cheney and whether you saw any blowback at all in your data.
It's a reasonable question.
Well, first of all,
but
organization.
It's just all so fucking absurd. It's like, why did you work with?
Why did you work with Satan? Like, it turned out that shut out a lot of our base.
Hindsight is always 20/20, but.
Like,
when you had her take off the mask and she had like the red eyes and her skin was melting, like
Yeah, was the endorsement from Lucifer really a good idea, or what was the thinking behind that?
The rally you had in New Jersey when you started it by blasting the sounds of thousands of dying screams instead of music, was that?
Was the Moloch statue too much at that point? Like, or
that's got the resources in the private sector, or in this case in politics, you make as many decisions as you can based on data by the marketplace. Okay.
There you go. That right there is like you make decisions by data.
Yeah. And this guy looks like a really, really sad Nazi. Like he has like the deep.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Crack, like Otto Skorzeny or whatever. He's got like the lines in his face, but he's like moping. He's got like the fashy hairdo. He's like the headphones on, like. Well, we just went by the data, and
we could only do what we could.
We just had to go with the neocons, and
But, we'd spent a lot of time with voters who we were concerned weren't going to vote. And the fact that Liz Cheney was supporting Kamala Harris was not an issue raised by any of them, okay? So I'd say...
That sounds like we were a little down in, like, Philadelphia and, like, Detroit, but, like, they didn't care that Liz Cheney was, like, according to the data.
We did statistics, I spoke to every single one. Like, everyone's cool with Liz.
Called my brother's guy in Detroit, and he was like, yeah, like, Lucifer, I mean, I guess, right? Like,
Liz? That John? Fucking love that John out in this area of the country.
No, do what you gotta do to get the Republicans to come out and vote for her, right? Like, yeah, like our voters didn't care in the tight areas. Yeah, they didn't care about Liz Cheney. Well, because like this goes back to that intervention we did. Remember with Nye Whitaker? And like they did not like the fact that Liz Cheney was campaigning.
Well, of course.
Like
because people literally have the grasp of history that it's like Hitler did some bad shit in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And if you're a liberal, well, yeah, and George Bush did some really bad stuff too in the early 2000s, and that's history. The Iraq War, yeah, okay, we did something bad.
And if you look at how we closed, I think we did one day with Liz Cheney in the last couple of weeks. You look at the ads we ran, they were heavily centered on the economy, on tax cuts, on Trump being for the wealthy. So this notion that somehow we weren't focused on the economy, that was the driving motivation and message in our campaign. The closing speech, yes, it took place at the Ellipse, was a huge contrast on the economy and the people Donald Trump would fight for and the people Kamala Harris would fight for. So
he's dodging. He's dodging. The whole question was Liz Cheney not a good idea? Look, we had to remind
people. We talked about the economy.
Trump was going to be bad. We had to tell people the economy was going to be bad.
What do you want from me? We talked about how we're going through a systemic collapse.
Like, shut up about Liz Cheney!
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the economy.
Like, we did what you're supposed to do. Like, it was not in our
I think
hands.
it was just sinking into me, like, these people still don't realize that Trump supporters know that he's like a depraved actor.
What do you mean?
Like, Trump. He's a famous person. He's famous on reality TV for being a rich person.
Yeah.
He's WWE. Like, people know about him because he's on TV as a rich person.
Yeah.
The reason why people felt like he was competent to be a president, among other things that he actually did succeed in doing in terms of transforming the media environment, was just saying, like, yeah, all these people are rich. Like, this is basically an oligarchy. And like, he like broke the fourth wall, basically, right? I mean, there's obviously more to it than that, but like, he broke the fourth wall, and they're like resentful because it's like, well, we had to raise the threat level because like, we have to call him a fascist, otherwise there's no way to stop him. But we talked about the economy, like the whole people who are supporting Trump know that everyone in politics is a depraved rich person that's trying to get one over on them. Like,
right, and that was the thing that Trump's
they're
like not
pissed off that
hiding. Like he's right. He's not pretending to be not that.
Somehow that does actually give him enough leeway in terms of the way the media and other things function that he can, for example, talk about the reality of thermonuclear war. Whereas, for whatever reason, the statistics that they're running and whatever internal
Their
analytics.
data,
The data set. Hey, the data says
market economy.
don't talk about the fact that we're trying to push everyone to the verge of thermonuclear war.
Yeah, that was the irony about this. It's like,
NATO doesn't exist.
Why is Trump the peace candidate?
Exactly.
Why is Trump the fucking peace candidate? Vote for me, and there will be no World War III. Vote for Harris. More Middle Eastern countries are gonna die, but not with me. Not with me.
Yeah. Who made that call?
Oh, about Liz Cheney?
Yeah, like who's like, all right, just bring in the Cheneys and we're gonna have a conversation. Look, numbers are way down.
Right, the numbers are telling us that the Cheneys were extremely unpopular. Liz Cheney lost her congressional race by like 20, 30, 40 points.
That's why I'm saying with like, from a kind of like cui bono, like,
well, because like
mode of analysis, like, the Harris campaign absolutely did not benefit from that in any way, shape, or form.
they like traded off like possibly 2 million votes for like 5 people in the Pentagon. We're like, yeah, like but
yeah,
you know, you
like
you and I remember we were like before the election, like, man, this is like they're just showing off, like they're gonna steal the election because remember, you and I were thinking like, oh, of course the election's already rigged, like they're like flaunting it in our face because like who in their right mind would campaign with Liz Cheney unless you knew the election was yours?
Yeah. That was like the main reason why I was convinced that it was just going to be stolen on the day of.
Because it was so stupid to have Liz Cheney, and then we're sitting here like, are they just stupid? Like, are they just stupid? Are they actually just mentally incompetent? They're like, this is a good idea. No one, like, think about it. These are people with degrees, years of experience.
Terminal degrees.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just some asshole in the Bronx who's like, hey, that's like not a good idea.